I don't think you need to hold it up the whole time and you're just waving it around because you're talking with your hands. So just talk freely with your hands. Okay?
Hi, welcome to our home. I'm Alana.
I'm Mandy.
And we are going to be talking about A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is by Mackenzie Lee.
We're going to start with non-spoilers, so don't be afraid to stick around and listen to this, and we'll let you know once we get into the spoilers. It's basically a historical novel following Henry Monty Montague. He's going on a tour of France.
Europe? Yeah,
France. He's going on a tour of Europe before he has to take over his father's estate. He goes on his tour with his best friend Percy, who he has a crush on, and his amazing sister Felicity.
It's set in the 18th century, so it is historical in nature, but obviously none of the characters are historical figures. No. They mention royalty and dukes and things. If you know French royalty, you might know, but otherwise it is purely fiction, just set in a different age. It starts off very coming of age, just set in a different time, so it's interesting from that perspective, and then yeah, antics happen and it kind of turns into a little bit of more of an adventure novel, but still a lot of coming of age. They're about 17 and Felicity's 15, so it's just about them learning to do their part in this world that's created for them. That is a certain way about people of color, certain way about people of sexuality, certain genders, so even Felicity struggles with it because she's a woman in this world. So it's interesting for all of the social commentary, but it is also just a really good book.
And it's incredibly funny. There's lots of parts that I was laughing out loud.
Okay, I think that's all we can do without going into the actual spoilers. So if you have not read or listened to this book, click away now. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. For those of you that are still here and you've either read the book or you know you're not going to, because I do that all the time.
If you want to be spoiled.
Yeah, if you want to be spoiled. Hi. Spoilery synopsis is that once Monty and Percy and Felicity are on the road, they go to a French court and Monty gets kind of upset over some things. He's not very tameable and he wants to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and so when someone tells him otherwise, he gets bitter about it, and so he steals something from that guy's office thinking it's just a trinket, it's just a small box, and then later on they almost get murdered to the point where they are running from people and they are scared for their lives, and they're rich nobles, so they've never slept on the streets before, they've never had any of these experiences, and they know that it's life or death, and they find out it's all due to this, what Monty thought was a trinket is actually something that an alchemist calls a Lazarus key?
Lazarus key.
Lazarus.
A Lazarus key.
Yeah, okay.
In the trinket box is a key.
A literal key.
That opens up like a crypt where the alchemist's wife currently is dead but undead. She holds the actual key to like everlasting life or health, kind of can cure all, and so it's kind of this battle of do we go and get this or do we make sure it doesn't get into the wrong person's hands.
The major point of conflict internally, like there's all the external things are happening, but internally we're following Monty, and Monty is in love with his best friend Percy, and he finds out through this adventure that Percy has epilepsy, which in this day and age they thought you were cursed, they thought you were possessed.
Yeah, more of like a mental health.
Yeah, they would put you in an asylum and leave you to die, and that's what is going to happen to Percy. He's also half black, so he's struggled with that his whole life. So there's like a few things that Percy's trying to deal with and be okay with himself, and he's kind of submitted to the fact that he's going to go to this asylum, whereas Monty, the second he finds out there might be a cure, he wants to cure him.
The other main character that we have is Felicity, which is Monty's sister. She's this young, strong, genius girl. She wants to study medicine, but her family wants her to go to finishing school. I find that Felicity is kind of the voice of reason to both Monty and Percy throughout the whole adventure. She has her own things that she's dealing with the family, with, I think, like you mentioned before, the gender roles, and she is doing her best to kind of fight those alongside dealing with her brother being a brat and trying to make sure he doesn't get into trouble or do something really stupid. So I think she kind of saves them throughout the entire novel.
It's a interesting kind of trio of characters because Monty is that outgoing, bold personality. Felicity is still a very bold individual character. She knows who she is, but she is more reserved and introspective about it. And then the third is that Percy is very introspective and quiet, and he's not as bold. So all three of them together, they each have kind of half of the traits of the other one. So the trio, at certain points, two of them are agreeing, and then the other one's not. And so at all point, there's never just like a, oh, we should go there. There's always kind of a conflict of personalities, which is cool to see. Like, that's how you know it's a rounded, three-dimensional character, is when you can tell that, okay, if this were to happen, this character is gonna disagree. If you know that before the conflict happens, I think the character is well written.
Some of the other issues that we briefly talked about before the spoilers is the sexuality conversation within the book. Monty's dad is very anti him laying with men, him being seen with men in any kind of sexual matter. I think that's something that lies heavy on him throughout the whole travels and holds him back from really expressing how he feels about Percy.
Like, he feels the shame because it is that society, and it's also been literally beat into him by his father that is not acceptable. And Monty is always willing to risk that with random people, but when he actually feels things for someone, which is Percy, he's so scared of being who he wants to be, so he becomes who he's always been, which is not a great person. My rating would be a solid 4 out of 5. Definitely some things that maybe I didn't love, or it was very similar to other books I have recently read or read over my lifetime, but I loved the mix of genres. I loved all of the conversations that started about gender, sexuality, mental illness, physical illness, racism. Privilege. It was good on everything, but not too preachy in any way, so I think it's a beneficial novel for most people. I don't know if everybody would love that it's historical, but I personally love that. My biggest flaws are more things about what I've read recently and comparing it to other things, so that maybe isn't fair, because maybe another day I would rate it more like a 4.5 or a 5, but overall I really did enjoy it.
My rating would be 4.5 out of 5. I listened to the audiobook, which was read by a lovely British man, and I think that added so much more to the novel. I don't read as much historical novels as Alana does, so for me, this was like reading a historical novel, but maybe a little less dull than I tend to find them. Back to kind of what Alana was saying with all the important things that it had kind of spoken to, I think it's nice to read those without feeling like that's all the book is about, or that it is trying to preach to you about something. I think adding the humor, the adventure, the fun, quirky characters really made it so much more than just, hey, you need to listen about racism and sexism and all the other kind of crappy things that go on in this world.
I think it's a good book for anyone that enjoys fantasy, anyone that enjoys either historical fiction or things written more in that era. Like, if you like Austen's, I think that you'd like this. It's modern, obviously, but it has kind of the same themes about Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, things like that. It is told a little bit simpler because it is made for young adult, but I don't feel like it was written down. I think it was one of those books that, you know, if you don't catch everything, that's okay. You're not going to lose out on the story, but if you catch everything, then great, you're going to experience more. So I think most people, most genders, probably over the age of 14 or 15, would enjoy it.
And that love story, though, with Percy and Monty. It was lovely. Healthy, I think.
Healthy. It was honest, right? Like, and they were both flawed, and Percy called him out on his shit. About it.
Love. We love love.
We love love.
That was our review and thoughts on The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. We both highly recommend that you read this book.
If you like this book and you maybe like board games, check out our next video because we're going to be posting about a board game called Marrying Mr. Darcy that I think if you like books like this, you're going to like. We're going to talk about that more extensively in the next video.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye.